power and glory for its own sake and stay stuck in having to be a hero. You will feel threatened by authority. You will always have to win. You won't be able to tell your enemy from your friend. You will look like a bully and your children will fear you. When I'm with you, you will defend your own boundaries and the boundaries of others. You will serve a cause greater than yourself. You will know how to think for yourself. You will be able to endure pain and know how to stick it out to the end. I am the eternal golden magician within all men. Without me, you will be unresponsive and dull. You won't have a sense of humor and will not get jokes. You won't care about much. Too much of me, and you will be a manipulator and will think other people are stupid. You will be a mean trickster. You will be aggressive in a passive way. When I'm with you, you will be curious about how the world works. You will see beneath the surface of things. You will want to know the truth. You will think about what you do before and after you do it. I am the eternal golden king within all men. Without me, you will be weak and give your power away. You will easily be impressed and your standards will be low. You will be invisible. Too much of me, and you will need to be the center of attention and will insult and put down other people. You will be obsessed with power. You will never be satisfied. When I'm with you, you will feel generous, and people around you will feel stronger when they are with you. You will be calm, compassionate, and strong. You will know what is important and what is not. You will be creative. You will know where you are going in life. People will look up to you, and you will bless them. I am the eternal golden skyworld man within all men. Without me, you will be looking downward too often. You will be disconnected from your masculine side. You will feel the weight of the world, too much of me, and you will be overbearing. You will be harsh and closed. When I'm with you, you will feel that the sky is the limit. You will feel solid in knowing that you are a man. I am the eternal golden earth man within all men. Without me, you will be disconnected from your feminine side. You will be disconnected from the animals, rivers, and forests. You will wander without direction. Too much of me, and you will be frozen in pain over what is happening to the earth. You will be so concerned by others' pain that you will become immobile. When I'm with you, you will feel grounded. You will be a nurturer, and you will feel the connection in all things. People will see your love of Earth Mother and love her more. Lastly, the whole man. I am the whole man. I am wild by nature, and I have all the energies in me, both gold and shadow. Inside me lives a deep lover and a strong warrior. Inside me lives a capable magician and a just king. Inside me lives a balanced human being, carrying masculine and feminine energy. The shadow aspects of these six are present within me too. I have a dark lover and warrior, a shadow magician and king. My sky world man and earth man can run amok. It is my challenge to manage all of these energies. Oh, 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 oh.
Second, name, animal name, what circle you sit in, and a couple of feelings. Dameron Sparrow, I'm feeling excited and centered. I sit with the rhinoceros. That's one way.
Oh. Jim Siberian Husky. Feeling excited, blessed, happy. I sit with a rhino's nose, Mike. I'm in.
Handle it. I'm gracious girl. Feeling sad. But gratitude. I sit in our circle. Rare, grateful blue heron. That's in our circle as well. Feeling grateful, centered, joyful.
Bill, a thundering buffalo. I'm feeling a little nervous and excited. My circle is the Crucible, although I haven't been sitting in it for quite a while. And I feel gracious to be here. And
Amen, teaching Bobcat. I got some nervousness tonight too. And I'm excited and feeling really grateful that we're exploring this a little bit tonight and seeing where it will take us. I sit in a circle named Unchka, which is the Mohawk word for one. And then,
Well, Brian, Crazy Wolf Hiking Bear. Checking in with, settings. Views. Down here. Encouraged in opening. And circle is Aska. Casa. Dave, tell me about. Oh, Haka Caldera. Caldera. That's my circle. I'm in.
Remical Grim, Giving Heart Dolphin. Feeling fear and joy. I sit in Unchka. I'm in.
Vail, Redstone.
Nervous excitement. It's in on the head for me. And I sit with a newly formed circle, and we were going to name it our circle. I had no idea the name was taken. So more about that later.
Bird swimming dolphin, checking in with some joy and some fear. And I sit with green leaf warriors. For men.
Flopping turkey vulture. Blessed, gratitude, and getting grounded. I am in Wisdom Seekers Circle.
Trader, steady bear, checking in, anxious, rushed, angry, and sitting in green leaf warriors.
My God, a free-range human. I feel lots of joy, excited, and I sit in our circle. That I'm in.
And online, Robert?
Conway, Watchful Otter. I sit with the Crucible. I'm checking in with gratitude to the men who pulled this together and joy at the turnout. I'm in.
Jack?
All right, Jack, Vigilant Red-tailed Hawk. I'm excited and honored that y'all are putting this online. So that I'm in, and I'm in the what we call the Memphis Tuesday Night I Group circle. I'm in with that.
John Layton, Grandfather Deer. I sit in the La Jolla 1 circle. That's in San Diego. And I check in with joy and community. This is wonderful. In.
John Hernandez?
Always happens when there's more than one John. John Hernandez, Panther. Checking in with gratitude. Thank you for putting this call on. This is a great topic. I hope one of many to come. I'm in Oakland, California, part of the NorCal community, and I sit in the Wired I group in the independent state of Marin. But I don't live in Marin, so don't hold that against me. I'm in. I'm looking forward to it.
Oh.
Andy?
Andy Fleming, checking in with joy and lots of gratitude for all my brothers I see in the room with you there. And I sit with Greenleaf Warriors, and I'm in.
TJ, you're muted.
Yes. You ready? Chifone, Dancing Dolphin with Watchful Whale. I check in with joy and curiosity. I sit in the Monday Night I group in Topeka, Kansas. I'm in.
Scott? Letterman?
Scott Letterman, Moonwolf. I check in with a lot of excitement and gratitude for you men putting this together. The Axis Mundi has been the center of my life for a couple of years now. It's an inquiry for me that I really love and I'm inspired by. And a lot of joy there. I'm in Philadelphia, just outside Philadelphia, and I sit in the Harmony Clan. I'm in.
David?
Galvagno Hawk, checking in with joy and fear. I'm in. I sit with the Salt City Men's Group.
Chris? You're on mute.
Chris Rowe, 10 Crows, checking in from Mid-Atlantic area, around Washington, D.C., checking in with joy and eager to learn. I'm in.
Awesome.
Everybody?
Coast to coast.
Coast to coast. Thanks for joining us, man. We're not exactly sure where we're going, but we're trusting that this is spirit guided tonight. And speaking for myself, we certainly don't know all the answers. And if any man has something they want to contribute, especially you men on the Zoom screen, maybe putting your hand up is the best way to get our attention. I don't know, I'm no expert, but that would get my attention. So.
I'll kick it off. All right.
I'll start it.
Go.
It's Jack from Memphis. I was talking to Curtis Mitchell, and he was one that came up with the Axis Mundi protocol. I asked him how it got started, and he said it's about 1998. He said we were sitting in a council, and the leaders came up and says, we're the ones in charge. And the elders, I forget the elder's name at the time, said, no, we're in charge. And Curtis said, no, you're both wrong. We're in charge, LKS. And they started laughing. And so the leader, they all got together and said, Curtis, write a protocol about this and how to do it. So Curtis came back, and when he came back originally, he had the leaders on the above, and he said that's because they're the ones that sit above and watch. He goes, LKS is the below, and we're the ones that, because we're closest to the earth, and we're the ones that solidify it. And he goes, the elders were in the middle. There they were within. And he said the reason they're within is because they were closer to death. And they don't like that, so the leader says, we'll take the within and you can be the above. So that was how it got started. And then in 1999, they started doing it in certain communities, and then they brought it to the protocol committee, and they approved it about 1999 to 2000 is when the Axis Mundi started on the NWTAs. Just some interesting history about it.
Thank you.
You men on Zoom are ritual elders. Show of hands. Oh, half of you. Okay. So just so you know, we've got 13 men sitting in this circle, which is, by the way, a sacred number. And A lot of the men from this upstate New York community came tonight, I believe, because the Axis Mundi is this mysterious thing that gets touched on for just a few moments on Thursday night of the first staff meeting on a weekend. And I'm guessing most of them have never delved into it very much. And truthfully, as a ritual elder, there's a whole lot I don't really understand about it. So Jim Coulombe suggested maybe a really good way to start this tonight would be by doing an Axis Mundi, the way we do it on a weekend, and then see where it goes from there. How's that work for me?
Sounds good.
Yep. Oh. Well, we have our water pourer for our community here tonight, Vail, and he's gonna start it off.
What this staff represents is the Axis Mundi, and it's something you can touch and has some substance to it. And what it is, it's the center where all the directions come together. That was really cool what you read tonight. I identified with everything, including the shadow parts. So I'm reminded that we're a whole being. And what we're doing is we're going to create sacred space. And the Axis Mundi is the center of that space. And how we start the ceremony is tobacco is passed around and we put our intentions in the tobacco. Tobacco was given to us to pray with. That's why we use it. And so when we put our intentions in the tobacco and collect it, and we collect it in a cloth and we tie it to the staff, it becomes the center of our sacred space. So what the other components of the space are the initiates who are in the middle and the staff who circle the initiates. And we got to keep these people safe, and we got to give them safe space, and that's our job for the weekend.
So Dave, that last piece, you wouldn't say that on Thursday night, nor would those initiatives be there Thursday night, right?
That's true. Okay. But that's the crux of why we're doing the ceremony. That's what I got of it, right? And I do want to mention sacred space because that's what we're creating. And how we're doing it is through a ceremony, and this is a ceremony. So the tobacco is passed out, and it'll be collected in a cloth, and then the elder comes up,
and the full leader,
comes representing the full leader tonight, and we tie the tobacco pouch together.
So let's pretend we're doing it. So you've got the tobacco. I got the tobacco. Jim's got the string.
Tie that up and tie it to the staff. I would say something to the effect that I am the one with the above, or I acknowledge the above. It's the place of spirit. I hold the below. This is the place that is for grounding, and it's a connection with Mother Earth, and I hold the below.
And I will hold the center, the within space, the flat plane on the surface of this planet for this weekend, where the work begins, where the work takes place.
Together we will say the weekend begins now.
So, okay. Jim, you want to go a little deeper?
I know. So that's the crux of the ceremony. But what is that really about? What have we done here? this, by definition, the Axis Mundi is the center. It's depending on where you look. What did Wikipedia say?
Just for grins, I Googled Axis Mundi. Wikipedia says that in many of the ancient religions, the Axis Mundi is the center of the world.
So it is the center, or as I always refer to it as the anchor of the weekend. This is it's like the hollow bone, or the trunk of the tree. It is the metaphor that allows spirit to be anchored in the center of what we're doing, and as such creates a space that nurtures psychic safety by its very definition. When they came up with the Axis Mundi ceremony and I was leading weekends and I first saw it, I said, this is it. I'll never lead another weekend without it, and didn't. It for me put in place that necessary piece that said, unless this is here, the spiritual piece, the spiritual anchor, the center of the weekend, this is what creates the safety, the psychic safety, the container, the ritual space. This is what holds it in place, and it involves the three core leadership pieces from the three directions. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful metaphor. While Curtis didn't invent it, he was the one that brought it to us and put it in its form that made it, that really brought a piece to the New Warrior training adventure that we did not have before. And just kind of grounded the whole thing and put a bow on it that was, okay, now we got something here that for me was every bit as important as some of the other, like as leaders. We'd say, well, we won't certify a leader unless he's been certified through an LT3 and knows what his shadow and perpetrator are, and that's a safety piece. We won't put a leader out there unless he knows and embraces his perpetrator as a safety piece. Well, this is the safety piece to my way of thinking, that begins and holds, that anchors the weekend. The processes that we use through the course of the weekend are stepped descents and ascents. And as these processes move, there are a series of processes where we invite men to look inside, we challenge men, and then we give them a chance to reflect, to stop, to take a breath, to visit something that is not a challenge necessarily, but an invitation to look inside, an invitation to connect with something older than themselves, something they feel in their bones, to connect with a group of men, to connect first with an individual, then to connect with a team, and then to connect with an entire group, and to, in fact, form their own container within our container of the staff. So there's a two-container system inside this that is, in fact, anchored by this Axis Mundi. And so this sets the spiritual tone. We talk about how important it is to bring your authentic warrior or whatever it is that you're present with at the weekend, but where do we say bring your spiritual self? And this is where we say it. This is where we begin the weekend. So we don't,
unless you've done an ST1 or an OBSDT, you've probably never heard this talked about. And you've heard snippets of it or bits and pieces of it, unless you've staffed quite a few times. If you've ever staffed before, you're going, what the heck is this? And so we thought that we would just do a presentation of the Axis Mundi and its spiritual significance on a weekend and see where it went, because we all thought it was pretty important. So, here we are, and so here we are.
Here we are. Oh.
Hands on the screen. John Hernandez.
You're on mute.
You're muted.
There. Okay. Sorry. It just seems to go on and off on its own. Thank you. That's a good context piece. Something that I always struggle with is the balance on the weekend of teaching, when to teach, when not to teach, how much to teach. So what I've done recently is put some teachings together for the staff before the weekend, so that they actually have a context of the Axis Mundi and several of the other things to start setting that spiritual container. Because I feel at that point on the weekend, it's too long to put a whole context, like we were talking back and forth on email. Somebody brought in the Joe Campbell piece and a few other things, which are excellent pieces, but there would be no way to do that effectively on a weekend. So I put in a few paragraph pieces before that on the weekends that I staff, so that the men kind of get a sense, so that when they arrive at the Axis Mundi, they're in touch, because you made a great point. Until they do an ST1 or staff a few times, it's kind of like this stick and tobacco, and sometimes it's explained well, and sometimes it's done quickly. Sometimes the leaders are, let's go, let's get us enrolled, and it's like, no, we got to set the container. So anyway, for me, I found that helpful, and I'm happy to send some of those things out to the group if you guys want that.
Sure.
Oh.
Check in, David. We've got a newcomer on the Zoom call. David. So to check in.
Hi, guys. This is David Smiling Bengal Tiger checking in from Dallas, Texas. Glad to be with you guys. Grateful. Blessings to you all for doing this, and I'm in.
Welcome.
So,
Scott's got his hand up.
Oh, Scott.
You're on mute, Scott.
We have this saying that what happens on the weekend happens in our lives, and what happens in our lives happens, what happens on the weekends happens in our lives, what happens in our lives happens on the weekends. So the Axis Mundi is a ceremony, and it's a ritual, and it has in a very important place to begin the weekend. But it's also part of what we are. It's part of it's the context. It's one of the contexts, the spiritual context of our lives. And so as we continue the discussion, we get into detail kinds of things. I'm just going to invite you to let it resonate within you what this really is, because the above, the below, and the within it's the universe. It's us within the universe. And I just want to acknowledge Jack Armstrong, because we staffed together in 2015, February 2015, in Orlando. It was a Young Warrior Gateway with Jeff Tate. I believe it was you that said to me, every man is his own Axis Mundi. And I mean, that just floored me. So from now on, when I do the Axis Mundi, from when I did the Axis Mundi, when we start to do that part, the last three directions, after we've done the circle of life directions, north, east, south, and west, I hand off the staff to somebody else. And I just stand there, and I really invite the men to experience what the below is, what the above is, and what the within is, the circle of our lives, because that's the beginning of their leaving us. That's the internalization of it, It's the king and the blessing energy. And man, that is like, so it's, I mean, not because I do it, but it's because the power of that is so overwhelming to me. So as we talk about this, and it's great to have the inquiry, I'm inviting us all, especially me, to be conscious of what this is in our lives and in the universe.
Excellent point, Scott. That's really, really good. Yeah.
Mike, you were about to go. You still got it. We got another new man there. Virgilia.
Is there a hand up?
No, new man. Virgilia, it's not Chavez.
Chavez, you're on mute, but would you like to check in?
Sure. Virgilio Chavez, Cocodrilo Verde Brillante. I am calling from Mexico. I'm happy to be sharing with you and to hear you. I mean.
Welcome.
So, Dameron Sparrow. When I would show up to staff a weekend on a Thursday night, I showed up in fear a lot of times. Now, I would call it excitement, I would call it something else, but I was scared. I was scared of the unknown. I was scared I'd be seen. I'd be scared I'd be ignored. I'd be scared I'd hurt somebody. I'd be scared that I'd get hurt. But this ceremony, this ritual, this intention gives me a method to move from a place of fear more to a place of trust, a place of faith. Faith in this container, in the staff, the outer container. And the physical symbol of that is me holding that pinch of tobacco and taking all that I don't want to be, that I don't want to bring in, and letting me set it aside. Like we talk about setting a little boy in a safe place. So this is about me intentionally moving psychically from one place to another.
It's another teaching piece that we use. On a weekend, we often say, you're here for a reason. You're bringing something. If you weren't bringing something, you wouldn't be here. That's just the way it is. So trust that. And so this is another way to actually put a physical a reality to what it is that you're bringing. Here it is. Put it in that pinch of tobacco and put that in the whole. And collectively, we all together are bringing everything that those initiates need. Now that's a giant piece of safety right there. Collectively, we have as a staff everything that we need to do the weekend. And it's in that pouch. It's embodied in that pouch that's on that staff that travels with the initiates wherever they go. Whether the initiates understand that or not, that the staff understands it and has an appreciation for it, creates a huge piece of safety. A huge piece of appreciation for self and everybody else around. And it introduces men, and I like the piece, Scott, hey buddy, how you doing? That everybody's got their own Axis Mundi. Everybody is capable of being the hollow bone. And to give that back to the men with the understanding, with some deeper understanding of what this ceremony is about and the safety that it brings to a training is a real gift. I mean,
Andy's got a hand up.
Andy.
Hi there, guys. There's an interesting thing that occurred to me, that this the Axis Mundi is also a metaphor in a different sense, and the fact that it is there basically to be kind of the centering and guiding principle of the weekend. I think considering the axis of the world, Axis Mundi, it is basically an imaginary line from one edge of the earth through the center and out the other side, which kind of coincides with the catabasis and then the re-arising at the end of the weekend for the initiates. And so this axis is sort of their guiding path that we actually establish for them, so that we can, in a spiritual sense, it is the path. It's a representation of the path in a way. And I just gonna throw that out there because it just kind of occurred to me that it's another way to imagine this axis, just the fact that it is going right through whatever object and the axis is of. In this case, it's of the world, and this is why we're here. So just thought I'd throw that out there. I'm in.
Yeah, when I started to lead weekends, I would hear other leaders and other men say that they would pray at the run up of a weekend. They would pray for guidance and pray for understanding, and so well, that sounds pretty good. I better start doing that myself, and I developed that as a piece of my own pre-weekend run up. And then Curtis came up with this process and introduced a whole different aspect to it, and guys like you, Steve, that were talking about hollow bone and that refined and gave me a way to look at establishing my own spiritual connection coming into a weekend, using that hollow bone metaphor that completely reshaped the way that I looked at this and looked at the spirituality aspect of the weekend and the way that I taught BSDTs and talking about the flow of processes and what the purposes of different processes and how we explain the ebb and flow of energy on the weekend of what it's not a roller coaster. It's a series of descents with very pronounced landings, and on those landings, on the way down or on the way up, there's something those men get, and what they get is a piece of spiritual something. There's a little nugget there, and every one of those nuggets is a spiritual aspect of what's going on, and it's those spiritual nuggets that they get that come from a greater understanding and appreciation of what we set up in the beginning that allow them to absorb, process, take in, let go, whatever they need to go. It provides that psychic safety. And in doing that, one of the things when we were talking about this the other night, Steve, that struck me is to the degree that a man connects spiritually on a weekend reflects the connection that he has with something greater than himself, connects with another group, connects with, by definition then, a community. And so, the spiritual tone that we set on a training, that we introduce a man to our community with, is the degree to which he gets to connect with, trust, and feel a part of something greater than himself. And if it works for him, that's what brings him back. The community that he wants to be a part of has its roots right there, is anchored right there in that process. I'm beginning to believe. And so if we aren't holding men like we want to hold men, maybe this is a place that we can look at it a little harder, a little deeper, a little differently, and say, how is it that men aren't connecting with something that's great? Because by definition, this is what makes groups like us work. You probably heard me rant about this before, but I'll do it one more time. It's true because the government did it. The government did a study. And the government was interested in this because there was a lot of money. The biggest share of uncontrolled independent money was going off in the directions of non-for-profits. And so the government wanted to know why. So back in the early 90s, late 80s, early 90s, they did this study and looked at what makes not-for-profits and groups like, and included in this group were like the mega churches and groups like that. People come to not-for-profits, people come to these organizations for a cause. Save the whales, feed the babies, house the homeless, whatever the cause is, initiate men. They come for the cause, and they stay because they want to be a part of a community. They want to be connected because what's missing in our society today are the neighborhoods that people used to feel a part of, and it's the basis for it turns out it's a crux of what the study that they did. What's the university? What was the study?
Stanford.
Thank you. The Stanford study, which talks about there's about 100. We can handle about 150 close relationships, people in general, and so that used to be the size of the neighborhood. You would know if you sat on your porch in the neighborhood about 150 people that would walk by, and you knew by name. The average size of MKP communities, active men and I groups, it tends to be 100, 150, sometimes a little higher, but those are the guys that get out there and do it. And so the sense of community, the sense of belonging, the part of being a part of something greater than yourself, that you feel safety and security, that you want to be a part of, that has its roots here as well. Okay, check out another one.
So, giving that as a foundation, that men are looking for connection and connection with the spiritual part that is greater than myself, how would that influence whatever rituals we do in our circles? How would it change how we present the pit?
Weeks. When you say it, you're specifically referring to Axis Mundi, right?
The spiritual aspect of what we do, what we're about. That's one aspect. That's one manifestation of it. How else can we bring spiritual connection into what we're doing in our circle?
Get involved with LKS. That brought a huge connection for me. And I'm not really sure how it did it, other than I was invited to come to lodge, to come to ceremony, and I just felt a connection with the ceremony. And from there, what I mean by the ceremony is the physical thing of going into a lodge and being by the fire and things that I could see and touch and relate to that way. And that's how it started. And then, after I started doing ceremony a little bit, then it got to be the connection I felt to the to the unseen. And so I connected with other people's prayers and what they were, how they would open up their heart. And I'm the type of person that's up in his head all the time. And I had a really tough time getting here to here. And that's one thing Lodge does for me, or the ceremony does for me.
But a piece of what you said, Jim, particularly resonated with me when you were talking about when the initiates on the weekend are doing their work, and each time they land a platform, they're getting and they get it, they're getting a spiritual piece. I remember years ago in the rooms in AA, topic came up one night about, what is spirituality? And the definition I landed on was it's my essence. Your spirit is your essence. Everybody here has got something unique. And when you said that, it just resonated for me. I can just see an initiative on the floor, whether it's What's at Risk or Animal Name or Mission or any other part of the weekend. The light bulb goes on for him, and I think what I'm witnessing is that man just discovered a part of his essence, a part of his spirit. And I'm convinced that the Axis Mundi takes us to a place as a group of initiators where we have invoked the great mystery, the great spirit, or any name you want to plug into it. And if you're an atheist, then the power greater than yourself may be the group of men. And without that, we can't do what we do. We would not have the same end result. And I think I'm saying kind of what you said, but in a different way and in my own words. And so I just got to say I'm grateful for what we've covered so far, because I've got a deeper appreciation, to use your word, and it fits for me, a deeper understanding. The next time I'm staffing as a ritual elder, I'm a little more grounded in this space. And no accidents. I'm in.
Mike, you put the question out there, what can we do or what are we doing in circles? For me personally, the spiritual beginning, the essence in the circle, we call them the grandfathers. And we're all standing. I'm a churchy guy. I would be at church tonight if I wanted to come here. And honoring the divine around us, that we're standing on, within us, is such a great place to start from. Such a valuable time to be standing with men that share the same beliefs and have had the same sacred, profound experiences of being on a weekend. And letting that be the platform, the safe place that you're standing on as you step forward to do your work for that week, for that circle. So I think that emphasizing that piece is something I've always wanted to do. And then sometimes we'll run it a little bit differently. Sometimes we'll just read it rote. Sometimes one man will take a direction. Sometimes we'll popcorn. So everybody's doing a little bit of each direction and mixing it up. That's been valuable to me. So that means a lot. And what else we can do as a circle after the pit. I've read a couple of books, Robert Moore and reading Lover Warrior, King Magician. That I think that you're calling in really sums up very well of that whole entire book of the good king, the bad king, the balanced king, and going through all the directions. Having a reading list, having a pit training, say this is some of the philosophies that these are the shoulders that we're standing on as the elders, as the leaders. We're talking about Jungian archetypes. We're talking about Robert Moore. We're talking about Joseph Campbell. We're talking about Robert Bly. But to have that reading list accessible to somebody going into the public library or online and saying, oh, I like what I saw on the weekend. I'm learning about the pit. I got this, and I can take it to a different level with the knowledge and reading.
We got Robert Conway that's stand up a couple times. So.
There, Robert.
Yeah, I'm on mute though. Hey, thanks. So I'm loving the conversation. I'm really appreciating learning more about the spiritual benefits of this ritual. But I also wanted to bring to light that at least in my experience, there's a practical benefit to it as well. And that is establishing the credibility of this organization to new staff members. So here's what I mean by that, right? So when I came to staff for the first time, I don't think I knew it consciously, but subconsciously, I had a fear. Are these men going to be half-assed? Are these men going to be careless? And I got to the Axis Mundi ceremony, and I knew right away that this was a credible, serious organization. That any organization that would spend this kind of time and effort on a ritual to create a safe container to help ensure that the participants' psychological and emotional safety was sacred, that meant the world to me. It carried a lot of weight. It instantly established a credibility that this is not just a couple of guys half-assing their way through a weekend, but it's an organization that has thought long and hard and very deeply and seriously about preserving the safety of these men. So for me, that was a practical benefit in establishing comfort and credibility with the organization as a whole. And Jim, when you were talking, you talked about how the ceremony lands with new staff. That's how it landed with me and how it has each time I've staffed subsequently. Amen.
So, Turkey Vulture. So when I came down the hill with my stuff in October of '99, I was very specifically looking for sacred masculine, not realizing I was bringing it with me. But because what I came, the spirituality, that system of spirituality that I came from, honored the sacred feminine, honored the sacred masculine as well, but it was out of balance for me. So I came to this work specifically looking for the sacred masculine. Of course, forgot what I was looking for. And the first time I staffed and I saw this ritual, was like, chink. Like, oh yeah, I get it. The other thing for me is when those men come and they do animal names and they do all these processes with visualization, I was always about visualization. And I always am about visualization. When that Axis Mundi is happening, I'm visualizing the whole thing around us, under us. It's a picture that I just carry the entire time. Anytime I'm in sacred space, I feel that bubble, if you will, that we sit in. So visualization is huge for me. And even as I'm talking, I have pictures in my mind just resonating. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Rick. Looking for hands. Jack Armstrong.
You got me. You know, I was thinking, well, for me, the Axis Mundi is part of the medicine wheel. So I utilize it when I'm doing when I build the fires for a sweat lodge. I visualize the medicine wheel, and there's the Axis Mundi that goes in the middle of it. And that's where the prayers and spirit comes up and down from fire to the above. And it walks down below, and it goes through the path of spirit, and it goes into the lodge. Where the sacred mound is, or the ceremonial mound is another Axis Mundi. And same thing, spirit goes up and down through that, into the lodge, back to the fire, and it pulls spirit in. And it's the same thing in the center of the ceremonial lodge, where in the pit, from the above to the below, is another Axis Mundi. And if you look in the lodge, if you do a 16-hole lodge, you're going to see a morning star in the top of the lodge, and that represents the moon. And if you look at the pit where the stones are, that represents the fire, the sun, and so that connects you to the universe in the lodge. Also, when we do a clearing, when we use the stick, we're bringing that Axis Mundi into the clearing. No, I didn't think about it until just a couple minutes ago when y'all started talking, that when we bring that clearing stick in there, we're bringing that Axis Mundi into the clearing to help work on our clearing our stuff. So there's, that's how I see that Axis Mundi part of it, where outside of an NWTA, just in everyday life and in when you meet in group, it's always there. It's always within us. It's always, for me, it's always in me. And that's what keeps me connected to the above and the below and in this plane. So that's just how I look at it. And so for me, the Axis Mundi is a lifestyle. It's part of my life, and I build it into my life. And it keeps me grounded that way. So that's just something that I've noticed and recognized in myself. And when you guys were talking about it tonight, the biggest thing was the clearing stick, because that's that Axis Mundi also. And I'm in with that.
Oh.
I have to check out, and I really appreciate the time and the effort to put this thing together. If there's a few documents that are going to come from this that I can read later, I would appreciate it being sent out by email. So I check out with joy and gratitude and that connection to community. Bless you all.
Thank you. Be well. Scott, you had your hand up. John.
Yeah, I'm just getting this this sense of, as a human, this is my view of a human being, this human being. There's a part of me that has always the higher self in me, above the instinctual survivor, trying to stay alive physically. There's a part of me that has always yearned to connect with the higher power in the universe, and it's just ongoing. I mean, I think, and I don't know how that is for everybody else, but that search, when I came to my training, within 15 minutes of accountability, it was real emotional accountability. I'm thinking, Jesus, I don't want to cry in front of these guys. And was biting my tongue, and somebody on the wall said, "This is a safe place." And I realized I had never felt that safe in my life, and I was willing to take the risk to trust these men. And that was 22 years ago, to almost 23. And that was the connection. And that's, I think, what we do, and it's symbolized in the Axis Mundi, is when new men come through, initiates come through, they sense in one way or another how we are men they don't even know, for the most part. We're blessing them. We're loving them unconditionally. We're creating the safety for each of them and each of us to just live in our higher power, our higher self. And that's what our communities are about. That's what our circles are about. And when we put our intentions in that bag, it's the intentions for everything, for ourselves, for them. And, there's a give and a get. I mean, I might want to look really good, on the weekend and have a successful weekend, blah, blah, blah. But it's just that ability to live in the sacred, or whatever you want to call that part of the spark of the divine. And that's, and it's no accident with all the stuff that's going on in the world today, where we're breaking news and we're seeing all sorts of things that were hidden under the rug, that we're sitting around here tonight talking about the Axis Mundi. I think the universe is providing me certainly with an opportunity to do that. So I love this, and thanks again for putting this together.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the beauty. Thank you, Scott. Again, that's really well said. That's the beauty of this. And I think that's where the connection is, the spark of the divine from the above with the connection from LKS with the below, which are the archetypes and the earth and all of those elements that Robert Morris speaks of and that the Native American tradition speaks of. So the constant circulation of that and awareness of that, and then the within, that's embodying that you're talking about, which is always ongoing. So how do we create that as ritual elders and as LKS on the weekend? For me, the first step is just connecting by phone or physically with LKS and with the full leader, even if I have to drag him kicking and screaming into the conversation. Hey, guess what? There is a spiritual component to the weekend. And yes, you are holding the within, the horizontal plane where the work happens on this particular weekend, but the work is ongoing here and here. And that's where the Axis Mundi is really, really important. And it's ongoing. And if the men, so with intention from us and the staff in that ceremony, when the intention is really solidified, then that's when the magic happens, I see. So thanks for articulating that, Scott. You're good with words. I like that.
So I have a quick question. So the tobacco, all right? We're putting, when it's going around, what am I putting into the tobacco?
Intention.
My intention. So, like what?
What you bring to the weekend.
Okay. So good or bad?
Oh, not just what you bring to the weekend, but that visualization piece, again, how you want to see the weekend unfold, safe, men touching their spirit, learning, teaching. That's, for me, that's what intention is.
Right. Well, that's for me, that's what intention is. But when you were to describe it, you had mentioned your fear that you had come into when you came into your weekend.
So,
and then you went into the discussion about the tobacco, and you sort of said you put your fear into that tobacco.
So that I can be fully present. So that's my intention.
So your intention is to be fully present.
Fully present.
So not putting the fear in, but putting your fully present.
Exactly.
So yeah.
It trips the balance between the fear and the faith. So it's a physical demonstration of me acting on faith. But this will be a spiritual weekend. Container will be solid. Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah.
So O'Brien here. When we do the LKS ceremony on Sunday night, the purpose is to bring the men so it's sent back to the real world safely. So for me, my intention on the weekend is to safely and offer these men to expose themselves to where they get what they need, get what they want, and get what they came for. And then at the end of the weekend, as we do the piece, we have to crack the container. So release them. So the whole weekend for me, it's a safety in the beginning, offer whoever is in need, safety for me to be the service. At the end of the weekend, the sweat lodge does this like a cleansing. All the stuff that they hang on, is, well, not everything, but they hang on just to go home safe. So it's safe going in, then it's back home safe. The whole weekend is safe. So when I put my intention in tobacco, and tobacco is used for spirit's medicine, spirit communication, spirit connection. So when we release it, we release that thought. Thank you for your service. I'm in.
Oh. Did you get what you needed, Jake?
I did. So for me, when I think about prayer, speaking of going into the weekend, when I think about that, I offer up everything. whether it's good or bad, right? So if I'm having a shit day, I'm giving that to my higher power. I'm letting him know I'm having a shit day. You know, I don't want to have it. But, you know, that's where it goes. If I'm having a great day, it's my gratitude as well. So, you know, I understand that there's good and there's bad. But when you mentioned intention, I just wanted to be clear about that. And so when I'm coming in and I'm going in, because I'm staffing this, I'm going. So that's why I'm here, is to better understand this process. So when I go in, I don't want to put my intention in like, you know, I'm fucking scared, here you go. You know, and then that's the intention that's out there. I want to put the intention of what, you know, what it is I want for myself and for the men and women. That's all.
I think you just, that's the key right there.
That's it. Yeah.
What do I want to see?
Right.
What do I want to see for myself on this weekend? What do I want to see for the men that are coming?
Right.
You know, how do I want to see them leaving when it's all over?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly.
Oh,
yeah.
Is that set up when we're around staff circle with tobacco? Is that piece set up in terms of imagining this just walking down the hill? You know, visualize what you want to see unfold this week. Crystallize that in tobacco.
Not really. After you've stepped a few times, you know it's coming, but for a rookie first timer, no, you don't know that it's coming. Unless you've been exposed to it, you know, ST1 or BSDT, you wouldn't know that.
Well, that's where context is important on whomever is doing that particular piece, because that part of the teaching can be done in a short amount of time before, you know, during that ceremony. So typically it's LKS that's doing that portion with the intentions and the tobacco. So almost every weekend I've been on, I've seen that handled, but that's a good point of discussion to make sure that that happens, though, and that point.
And to go on to that, we have one more staff meeting tomorrow. Maybe that's something we can bring into the staff meeting to let them know that when you're coming in, you know, have that in mind.
Excellent. No reason to keep it secret till Thursday night.
Exactly.
There's one other point I'm hearing a lot about ST1 or the old BSDT. I used to, in my former life as a senior CLC, I was one of the co-trainers for a lot of those, and there's not a lot of time spent on these types of things in those trainings anymore, and I think that's a real hole. So I'm trying to do my best to institute having an LKS and an RE at least show up for 10-15 minutes on an ST1 and give those types of pieces so that they're not left alone. Same with you know, the intention and teaching around the guided imagery pieces. There's virtually no training for that. So that's one of the holes I'm trying to fill too, is to put that out there and give a bigger context as to these, because this is one of the reasons why I moved into ritual elder, because I love ritual and I love the ceremony. And I think it's a huge part of the weekend. And my goal is to help get more education, give it some more time. And that's why I'm really glad to see this grassroots effort take place. It really warms my heart, because I think the end result is going to be a much richer experience for me, but not for me, really. It's for the initiates and the men coming through, that they get a piece of something when they leave. And whether it's what they came to get, I don't really care. As long as they get an offering of something, I'm happy.
I have, kind of piggyback on what John said. When I staff a weekend, everything I do, I teach. So when I'm doing the Axis Mundi, I'll get up and talk about what the tobacco is about, what we use it for. And if you look at the protocol, it's also cornmeal. You can use that if you don't have tobacco, or either end. I've seen them use both. I've seen them use red corn and blue corn. I've seen them use that. So when I go through a weekend, when I'm on a weekend, if I'm just sitting talking, I'll be teaching. People can listen to it, they can take it, or they can forget about it. That's up to them. But I'm always teaching. And that's how, because I agree with John, we don't teach the ceremonies of what we're doing. We don't teach the Axis Mundi. We don't teach the animal names or the wild man, because those are all visualizations, and we're taking men and initiates into the below world, and we're taking them on journeys, which, pretty much if you're doing that, you should be a lead man or LIT, CLC or above, because you can get into some trouble with that if you don't know what you're doing.
Absolutely.
And, so for me, how I teach, because we don't teach, is on a weekend. And, like Scott said, I just sat and talked about each one of us being the Axis Mundi. That was a teaching piece. And so by interacting with people, just by brushing against people, they're going to learn from us through osmosis or whatever. So that's, how we can answer your question, John, or statement. That's how we can teach until we can get in there. I've been trying to get us into the pit training, where you can get LKS and the ritual, just going for a pit training for 30 minutes and talk about animal names, because we don't do that protocol justice. That's so much deeper than what we go through, even on the protocol, what the protocol talks about with it. We don't go into it deep enough. So, I'm getting off track, but however, the Axis Mundi is that same thing. We just teach by talking. We just teach by modeling. We teach by example. So that's what I've learned to do, and that's how I try and do it when I'm staffing a weekend. So I'm in with that.
This is Chris Rowe. I think I'll contribute something here, and I hope there's not too much background noise. Over here in Silver Spring, Maryland, I'm outside, and I'm not that far from the Beltway 495, so I hope it's not interfering with you hearing me.
Sounds great.
Okay, great. So I started my ritual elder path in 2014. I feel like I'm just learning, so this is a treat. So bless you, men, for putting out what you know and your teachings. That's fantastic. For me, the Axis Mundi, for me, has become where the ritual elder and the weekend leader and the LKS open up a portal in time and space for the staff to enter that altered space, that ritual space. So that feels really important to me, and it feels important to carry that Axis Mundi to the initiates and keep it with the initiates the whole time, which is part of the protocol also. And I also feel that all the other ritual pieces are what really attracts me to being on an NWTA as a ritual elder. I feel like besides doing a lot of listening, I'm also telling the story. I'm helping telling the story of the hero's journey and the sacredness of what I and all of us are trying to accomplish, and keeping that in front of the staff during the whole process, so they stay grounded, and so I stay grounded. So that's just what I wanted to put out there. But once again, I really appreciate this opportunity and connecting with you men in New York, particularly since I grew up in Long Island and went to school in New York City, and it's been a while since I've been back there, and I do miss it.
That's the other New York.
There is another New York, yes.
We are. I hope.
I hope.
Well, okay, so here's another piece of where the metaphor and the container of the Axis Mundi can show up, and so we invite men to create a mission, a personal mission. And in the protocol, the Axis Mundi, it talks about that the four directions form the plane, the spatial reality that in effect the staff becomes the staff container becomes the horizon that the initiates can then look out and see that horizon surrounds them and creates a sense of safety. And in the process of inviting men to create their own personal mission, quite often, in the final stages of wordsmithing a mission statement, I and others have been known to say, create a mission that is like a beacon on the horizon. It's something that you could always work toward. You never really get there, but it's always something that's out there on the horizon. And that wording and that repeat is no mistake. That whether we've done it intentionally or not, it shows up as another piece of this metaphor that is rooted with the initiate in the center in his own Axis Mundi, looking out at the horizon with his mission being out there on the horizon for him to work toward. Amen.
Oh.
We stuck a little bit.
Questions, queries, thoughts?
Schrader, Steady Bear. I'm kind of sitting here just wondering if there would be ways to bring in the Axis Mundi throughout the weekend. You know, we have this Axis Mundi ritual at the beginning that's sort of like the gavel going off or the bell at the beginning of a meditation or something like that. So where is the Axis Mundi throughout the entire weekend, and is it in a place that the staff and the initiates can kind of see and orient towards? You know, I think of the historic Axis Mundis like Mount Meru, or you know the temple for the Jews before the diasporas, and all these things. It's this big visual thing that in many ways was a way of orienting everything else, kind of creating order out of chaos, right? And that's I think where a lot of the safety lies, because we're basically asking our initiates to go into the chaos, right? We're asking them to go from this formed being into what's a little bit unformed, and that's scary. So having this, you know, this concrete thing, right? The staff in this case, right? I guess I'm wondering if there are ways that we can continue to orient towards that throughout the weekend, to continue to kind of, you know, put our hand on it and feel, okay, this is here, this is safe, right? Just like we do with the, you know, if we're doing a clearing, we're holding on to there's something that's grounding in it. So I just put that out there to the group.
I think you're touching on a great piece, and one that we can create the advent of it getting more and more that way going forward. There's no reason. I mean, we already encourage staff then go talk to an elder if you got something going on. Why not encourage them to go hold the Axis Mundi staff, feel the physical presence in your hand, and close your eyes for a minute and feel that spiritual energy moving through it. Visualize it and feel it. I think you're onto something there.
I do too.
Well, there's no reason. We already. I mean, it's a charge of the elders to make sure that the Axis Mundi staff is present with the initiates all weekend.
But what you're suggesting is going a step further. That maybe other communities are doing that now, but we never have, and I like it. I like it.
So maybe as the on a weekend as a ritual elder, maybe we can say something like when you do the ceremony, or when you do the ceremony, remember that the staff goes where the initiates go. And as staff men, if you need to feel that energy, go grab a hold of it. Maybe just putting that invitation out, that's simple.
I've done when there's time. During some morning circles, I tell the initiates about when we finish the Axis Mundi. I have the staff then, and I say this staff was created on Thursday night, and all of the staff members put their intentions into this bag, and I kind of hold it out horizontal and said, hold on to this. I mean, that's, and if on Thursday night, if I can, after the Axis Mundi ceremony, I'll hold it horizontal for all the staff to hold it and put their hands on it. So it's time. It takes time, and it also depends on the energy. And also what you were saying earlier was the man was saying earlier about during the weekend. Really, the descents and the ascents are moving up and down the Axis Mundi. We're starting off on the within the circle of life, descending, and then ascending and ascending to the above almost. It's intriguing though to think about how to do that more often on the weekend. I encourage the elders on the weekend as part of the elder team to look at the Axis Mundi where it is during guts and other places, and also to hold on to it, to touch it. But there's no reason why the staff can't be invited to do that. That's what's suggested. So yeah, so let's do it. Let's be it.
Just a thought to touch on what you were saying. And Scott, you had mentioned it earlier that each one of us, you know, becomes the Axis Mundi, right? At the beginning, when we're around, and that, you know, for you, when we're staffing on the weekend, you're going to become that spiritual anchor point, right? The man that's next to me, that's bringing the work, that's, you know, creating and covering the work and creating a safe zone for the men to do what they need to do. You and I are that. We are the Axis Mundi. We are the spiritual guides. So, you know, my man next to me in my circle, you know, these are my spiritual guides. These are my Axis Mundi. So I gave my attention to that. That's going and sitting with the, you know, with the initiates. But then I become that guide to become a spiritual center. We're anchored to each other, and we're anchored to that.
Hey, here's something that happened to me on this weekend, or last weekend we had here in Memphis. We did the Axis Mundi on Thursday night. During the brother dance, somebody got a hold of the Axis Mundi, was dancing with it, and the bag fell off the Axis Mundi. So they got done, they took the Axis Mundi back to this initiate's cabin. I get up the next morning to get ready for the PNRC. I see the bag laying on the ground. So I go to the ritual elder and I say, the bag fell off the Axis Mundi, here it is, yada, yada, yada. And we looked at the leader and that's what we do. I says, I got what we can do, just let me do it. I said, okay. So at the morning circle, before we started the morning circle, we brought the Axis Mundi in the center with the leader, myself, and the ritual elder. And I explained about what the Axis Mundi was. Then while I was doing that, I had the PNR team go around and give every man in the circle tobacco, including the initiates or the new brothers, and put their prayers into it. And then we went around and collected all that back. We tied it back up again. And when we brought this Axis Mundi down, instead of saying the weekend begins now, he just said the weekend continues now, and went through that way. And like I said, it was a mistake. It was an accident how it happened. However, it worked out pretty well. And so I'm thinking I'm going to talk to the ritual elder this weekend in Memphis about on Morning Circle doing a second bag of tobacco and cornmeal with the new brothers and let them put their prayers into it and tie that on to the Axis Monday and then go there. So that's something I'm playing with about doing here. And another thing we should do here in Memphis, we would go out for every initiate, every gather, every NWTA, we would grab an Axis Monday for that NWTA. The lead man or one of the PNR team would go out, scout around the property, get an Axis Monday. If you go to our lodge, we have like 40 Axis Mondays of each group that went through. They have their own Axis Mondays. So if they're working in their I groups, they can pull out their Axis Monday and use their own Axis Monday to do their clearings and stuff with. So that's another way to bring that Axis Monday into your life. Anyway, that's it.
Yeah, I think that is a marvelous. The idea that when we give those men a talisman on Saturday night and we say you're a new brother, everything they do there isn't anything they have to do to gain entrance. They've done it. All the processes that we give them on Sunday are gifts. They aren't challenges that they have to go through to get there. They're there. And by giving them the opportunity to put tobacco in the pouch along with the rest of the staff, it invites them to become to merge the new brother container with the staff container in a really powerful way. I think you got something there. I like the way that feels.
That's because there's no accident.
It's better than inviting them to have pancakes with us.
I like the pancakes, man.
I've never been on a weekend where I've had pancakes, so I'd have to come out there to New York to see that.
Yeah, in fact, instead, even the intention for the rest of the weekend, an intention for their life at that point might be a fun little piece.
Oh man.
Yes, some accidents are meant to happen.
Yeah, sounds like Coyote.
Oh, they all are.
Back of it.
Yep, Coyote. For me, that Axis Monday is a powerful ceremony, and you know, someone was talking earlier about putting their angst and stuff in the tobacco, and we can do that, and that's fine and good because the tobacco, as my teacher told me, tobacco is the food of spirit. Spirit, it attracts them. When we do ceremony, we offer it as a way of payment to doing things for them. When I build a fire, I offer tobacco to the earth to allow me to build a fire on her skin. So it's a way of giveaway, it's giving. So you can put your stuff into that. Another thing that if we do the PNR, the brothers, the staff ceremony before the ritual, most of that angst will be out of you because it'll go into be done in the staff, in the PNR ceremony. Brother said, whatever. I'm so mixed up with that now because I still call it the war battle sweat and the battle lodge or changing all that stuff to the, staff sweat now or staff ceremony. It's hard to, my tongue trips over those words. But if we do that, if we do that first, then you don't have that angst going into the Axis Monday because it'll be taken care of in the sweat lodge.
Andy, did you have your hand up?
Yeah, I really like the catch about the Axis Mundi and the I did a weekend in New Mexico a few weeks ago, and we lost the staff a couple times, and it was because it was up in the initiate's cabin or whatever, and we didn't actually lose it, but we had to go get it. And the idea that on Thursday night that we do I do a better job of talking about the intentions going with the initiates and the new brothers the entire weekend, so that when those men are the escorts, whoever it might be sure that they're mindful of keeping track of the Axis Mundi as well. So I appreciate that a lot. Thank you.
Man, I'm going to have to check out now. My battery on my phone is just about gone. It's been a pleasure. So Chris Rowe, 10 Crows, checking out with a big scoop of learning. And I'm a good listener, and I did listen. And I'm going to take some of this with me to the next training we have here in the Mid-Atlantic area in June. So bless all you men.
Thanks, Chris.
Have a great evening. Thank you.
too.
Bye.
Is somebody taking point on who I should email the piece to for to get it out to the group? Because I don't know if there's a listserv for this or.
He wants to know whose point for who he can send stuff to get it redistributed.
Send it to Steve Aman. I'm on both the elder. Well, I'm on both the elders and the ritual elder chat list.
All right, Steve Aman. Okay.
And I recently sent out a couple of emails. M1bobcat@gmail.com.
Okay. Got it. Thanks.
So, Michael, is this being recorded?
Yes, David Galvagno is recording this.
Even while he's sleeping.
Drugs are working, huh, David?
Practicing being an elder. Jim, did you have something?
I do not.
Oh, okay. Well, it seems like the energy is kind of eased down here a bit, and we've set aside 2 hours, but we're not just going to sit here and stare at each other, I guess, unless you want to. Anybody have any other little piece they've been sitting on they want to share? Maybe you don't think it's worth sharing. I might judge differently. Or a question or a teaching piece before we put a bow on it.
Birds, swimming, golfing.
Hang on, Andy.
I think it was brought up about in the staff meetings to bring it up because, excuse me, with staffing 6 months after I went through my training, I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off anyways, not knowing what was going on. So to have something like this, especially for the first couple times, to have this teaching piece before the weekend would maybe make that ceremony on Thursday night even more powerful. Amen.
Oh.
Andy, did you have something?
Yeah, I did. I just wanted to thank everybody for their individual contributions as well as just all the learning that went into tonight. I got the impression that the Axis Mundi really is multidimensional. It has so many different connotations, metaphors attached to it, and it has a great significance. And I think we're only scratching the surface so far, but I think we've got a better grasp on it than we did before. And I just love the energy tonight, and thank you all. And I'm in.
Grateful Blue Heron. I'm going to throw my hat in the ring. I mean, to me, it's a sacrament. I mean, we're talking about a metaphor, a series of metaphors for the Axis Mundi, but a sacrament by definition is an outward sign of an inner spiritual connection. And that's exactly what this whole process, that staff, the bag of tobacco, the respect that we pay that bag of tobacco and the staff, what it represents. To me, the word sacrament is just blaring in my mind. There's some negative connotations with that. It sounds a bit churchy, but nothing with that.
I also, Bill, Thundering Buffalo. I'm just recalling my weekend. Now, the first time I think I touched that staff was in the morning when I stood in that big circle and announced my lineage forward and backwards. Is that the first? Was that
Sunday morning circle?
Sunday morning circle. So I guess my question, that was one of the most powerful pieces for me. So this ties into what I felt like you were talking about. I guess my question is, first of all, is that the first time that an initiate is even given the opportunity to touch that staff?
News to me. Generally, we don't. Oh, sometimes it gets around that circle, but not all.
Okay, so I like that idea of having more. And then the man mentioned, like in New Mexico, where it was kind of set somewhere. I like the idea of having more emphasis on where that is, or giving the opportunity to connect with that power. At least given the opportunity for somebody to feel that prior to Sunday morning. With that, I'm in. Big question.
So Brian, Crazy Wolf, I can bear. Was it the Axis Mundi staff, was it ever used for clearing? That's fun. I see it a couple times. I mean, was it intentional to use it for or not?
I don't think so.
No, okay, thank you.
I initiated in '95 before this process was added, and I staffed several times before it was added to the weekend. And the first times I saw it after it was added to the weekend, I had no clue what was going on. And I've seen the ritual elder and the lodge leader or the LKS leaders make it clear, and I've seen them glaze over it. And I've seen both effects in the weekends. And like you, Jim, when it was finally made clear to me what this was all about, it is what brings me back to Circle every Monday night, calling in the grandfathers and creating the Axis Mundi and the container in Circle. It is what makes me feel safe in a staff meeting. It is what makes me feel safe in the weekend. And it took me a while to understand that, to help men and staff particularly understand that. And I love, Jack, the idea of bringing the brothers into that space and understanding of what the Axis Mundi is when we're introducing them to calling in the 4 directions on Sunday morning is an incredible opportunity. It's a big part of what makes Circle safe to me. And I agree, it needs to be invoked more clearly in Pitt. And then,
on when I'm doing the presentation during the ceremony on Saturday night, when the new brothers come up one at a time, I always have them put their hand on the staff that I'm holding. So for us, that's the first time that they have contact with the Axis Mundi.
So I hear a bunch of different suggestions on what to do and how to handle this. Who makes that decision and how we handle the Axis Mundi? Who's the one that's guiding that ritual, right? I mean, here it is. We've talked about what Jack does. We got David doing something different. Apparently there's a protocol out there around us. But yeah, so we're making suggestions on different ways to handle it. And when we present it to the new brothers, when we have it available to the staff, how it's carried around throughout the weekend. Who makes that decision? we said, so we have the leader, we have the elders, and we have, the water board. Who's the one that decides, and when is that decided?
By and large, in this community, and other communities may see it different. It's the ritual, that responsibility to make sure it's with the initiates, that it is kept safe, that physical manifestation is kept safe, that falls on them. Were we to introduce some new pieces to the weekend, I would clear it with the full leader first. The suggestions that I've been hearing here tonight have a lot of worth to them. I judge a lot of gold to them, and I think most leaders would say go for it. It seems like the weekends that I've been a ritual elder, there's not that many. Maybe 7 or 8 now. The biggest restriction leaders seem to have for the elders doing anything is it going to take a lot of time. and that kind of sucks, but it's a juggling act for everybody in leadership. And so, I try to balance is the key. That's my mantra, and there's something I think is really important. I'll press for it. Right? And the art of wisdom is the art of knowing what to overlook and let go of. So that's what that answers your question.
That does answer my question, and I have a question for David Davis. You say you have to do if the initiates come up and touch the staff. Do you explain to them what that means to them, or are they just do they know what that is?
Not at that time. I mean, I would imagine that they are aware of the staff as they go through, because various men hold it. But as they're coming around to be introduced to the room and then presented to whoever's giving them their talisman, that's when I do it. There's not really a time at that point to say this is the Axis Mundi and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. So are you in? I'm in. So I have a question, and it's for anybody, but mostly for you ritual elders out there in Zoom land. So last year we had a newly initiated man say to a couple of us elders that he wished he had known sooner in the weekend that the elders were there and what they were all about, even though he had the golden sun saying all that. So from that, we made a decision to take the elder team and introduce them to the initiates on Saturday morning and let them know that we were there as somebody they could come to, a safety valve, if you will. So the question I have is, what do you think about us taking the Axis Mundi with us at that moment? I mean, we only take 2 minutes. We don't want to cut into their break and whatever, but we wanted to let them know that we were there, and got anything you want to talk about, come to us. What do you think about taking the Axis Mundi to them at that moment or a different time, and giving them the 5-minute elevator speech, so to speak, on teaching on what the Axis Mundi is, and feel like it's okay for you, if you feel the need this weekend, go put your hand on that staff and feel that energy flowing between the above and the below, and going outwards in all directions on the plane that we stand on. That's my question. Anybody got an answer?
Oh, that's what I say.
I got a suggestion. During the morning discussion, since Axis Mundi would be with them during that discussion, pass it around, let them feel it, and kind of before it starts, explain to them what it's about and what it is. Just a quick 2 or 3 minute feel on it, and just let them hold it and talk her out, and just let them feel it, and just go with it that way.
Yeah, these are the kind of things that are important to kind of lay the groundwork out in advance with the leaders of the weekend. There is an intention of non-safety going into Saturday, So that could be viewed as a life preserver or a safety valve that's may have an unintentional consequence and may not. I don't know. For me, it feels like the talisman ceremony is a good point for that, because they've gone into the unknown and they've come back now and they're being greeted. That might be a really good place to put the introduce the elders. We've been watching you this whole time, and we're here. And so my invitation is to check in with the leaders to make sure that's not going to, interfere with the intentional flow of the descent on Saturday morning.
Well, how you do that in your leader meeting on Thursday day before the weekend.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Friday, do your leader meeting.
Mm-hmm.
If we do it early enough on Saturday, like even before the morning discussion begins, the morning check-in, I think that would ameliorate any kind of over safety for that.
Mm-hmm.
So, but because I love the idea of explaining to them what that might be, just like Steve said, just an elevator conversation, that this staff holds this bag, which has the intentions of this staff for you this weekend. And we're the elders and we're here. Now, a lot of times people say, well, they don't have to be told we're elders, we look like it. So, but we can just say we're here for you, something like that. But I love that idea. I think that's a great one. And again, check it with the leaders, obviously.
But don't the elders bless them on and off the carpet anyway?
Yes,
that's across the project. That's not just unique to us.
Yeah.
And so there is a sense that the initiates, I would think, have that there are elders on the weekend.
Right.
We're talking about just sort of reinforcing it as in the run up to guts, and I think that's fine. I think some speaking from the place of having once had all of those concerns that leaders have, and mixing up energies and those sorts of things, that I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. That really, if they get a little taste of the elevator piece about the Axis Mundi somewhere on Saturday morning, I think that's just fine. We give them huge pieces of spiritual connection on Saturday morning. We invite them to go and touch their womb, and all of the things that surround that real plumbing of the depths before they face the danger. I think I can't help but think that there is some reassurance in some background knowledge of an energetic center somewhere in there that might actually aid them in a more willing plumbing of the depths, so to speak, to get to the wound and to come out of that in the mission. It doesn't seem like there would be that out of character. It would be in a run up to guts, obviously. I wouldn't do it there, but these are the little things that over the past 30 years you see get finessed on weekends, and I think that's how it happens. We talk about it. Guys try it out on weekends. It works or doesn't work. It goes through the process. It goes to the protocol committee. Sometimes it gets codified. Sometimes it gets put in the back of the book and say, these are good processes. Check with the leader first. And so they show up the way they're supposed to show up. And I think that this is the beginning of that.
Yeah.
Stuff like this. So
that's why I was asking that question. Where does it go from here? Is there some good ideas being presented? Good ideas that are being done out there. So where does it go from here? And just to address Scott, when you said that, having to introduce yourself as an elder, you look like you're an elder. There's a difference between being elderly and being an elder. And for me, there's a different connotation to that. So,
No, to some people, he looks like a grandfather.
And man, I'm going to check out at this point. I really want to thank you all for hosting this and including me and inviting the other men. This is, like I said, I think there's a lot of value here, and I look forward to more of this. Yeah, and I'll leave you with this piece. Somebody in the live circle there talked about sacred, and there's a lot of loaded words out there, and one of my other goals is to help dispel those things. So I'll leave you this sacrifice. Sacrifice literally means, translated, is to make holy, to make sacred, and holy is a Saxon word that means to make whole. So I like to talk about that because my belief is that we're each making something sacred here. So next time you hear the word sacrifice, there you go. I'm out. Blessings to all of you. Look forward to seeing you all live at some point in this journey that we're on. Take care.
Thanks, John.
Oh, should probably check out.
Yeah, let's do it.
Starting with the Zoom man. Any man can start.
Andy Fleming, Walking Tiger, checking out with joy, gratitude, a sense of connection. I'm in and I'm out.
John Layton, Grandfather Deer. I really honor the men who did this work to put it together. Great learning. I'm out with joy.
Armstrong, Vigilant Red-tailed Hawk. I want to thank you, men, for putting this together and also to open it up to other people, other men outside of the New York area. And it was very enlightening, and I'm honored to be with y'all. Thank you very much. And I'm out.
Cal Letterman Moonwolf, again, gratitude for you men for putting this together. And my favorite, aside from sitting in my I group, my Zoom call circles are my favorite groups. So thanks.
David, Smiling Bengal Tiger, checking out. Very grateful for you men for putting this together. We're seeing some friendly brothers on the call and the great knowledge that sits in this circle. I'm out.
Pipilio Charles, Cocodrilo, Verde Brillante. I'm checking out with gratefulness and very moved by seeing you sharing your thoughts and your heart. And this team has, I have discovered that the Axis Mundi is quite a piece for me. I'm out.
Interesting question, Moonwolf.
Conway, Watchful Otter, checking out with joy because I'm smarter now than I was 2 hours ago, and I always love that. Thank you, man. I'm out.
Galvagno Hawk, checking out. I'm muted still. Galvagno Hawk, checking out with joy and gratitude for all your efforts. And wow, a lot of information. Thank you all. I'm out.
And thank you for your service, David.
Sure. Coulombe, Siberian Husky, checking out joy, blessed, and full. I'm in and I'm out.
And with gracious gorilla, checking out. Grateful.
Moncada, Free Range Human, checking out